Today we have a guest joining the pew that I'm extra excited about. I'm always excited, but today is super special for me to invite this person into the pew. She has been in the fashion industry for over 15 years. She's account executive for a multi-line fashion showroom. She's been in fashion on both the design side as well as sales and kind of more of that corporate side of it. And she brings so much to the table to her personal life with the way that she views fashion and just the aesthetics around her. More importantly than that, to me, she is part of my family, and I'm thrilled to invite her into the pew. I want to welcome Emily Coker.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks. I am excited to be here.
Yes. You have your little baby at my house currently.
I do. Grandma's watching.
And I got to squish his cheeks already.
Yep.
So I feel like this is, not only are you joining me in the pew to do this, which I'm so grateful that you're willing to take time out of your life to do this, but also you brought me my nephew. And that's the bigger gift, I feel.
Yeah. Well, during your favorite time of year too. So
yeah, exactly.
Christmas is everything. And so...
Definitely. He showed up in a reindeer sweater. I was like, is this the best day I've ever had? I don't know. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. There's certain times of the year where it has to be Christmas attire only.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Outfits are important for Noah. With a mom like me.
Yeah, that was unavoidable. We'll get to this a little bit more later, but Christmas, particularly, and fashion come together in the cheesiest way with some of our traditions as a family. With Christmas PJs, and we'll dive into that a little bit later. But just hold that thought. That's our teaser for anyone that feels that they might skip to the end. That's what you have to look forward to.
Yeah.
But starting a little bit further back, so you've been in the fashion industry for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And you started right away, really. So you were in design school. You went to Georgia Southern.
Yeah.
And by your senior year, you were moving to New York for an internship and really just like headfirst diving straight into it.
Oh, yeah.
Out of the gate. So that's super exciting. That's like some Sex and the City stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, for a girl from Georgia, it definitely feels that way.
Definitely. It's so cool. Tell me a little bit about that experience, because senior year, you weren't even really done yet. So you made this move as an intern, but was directly really, like I said, headfirst into it. So how was that for you? How did that feel getting there, diving right in? What kind of stuff were you doing? And then how did you go from that first internship to staying the course in New York, getting your other jobs and working in design, and how that took you to where you're at now?
Yeah. Well, like when you first go up as an intern in the fashion industry is really not glamorous. Honestly, everything in the fashion industry is pretty on a picture, but like everything behind the scenes and everything else is all hard work. And going up there, it was a lot of, when you work for a showroom, you're basically the middleman in between a boutique, which is going to be your buyer. Sometimes it's major, so that could be like a Nordstrom, a Dillard's, a Macy's, things like that too. And then between the brands that the showroom represents. So basically, I was doing like all of the other work for the actual account executives at the time. So I was steaming clothing. This is back in the day of faxing. So we would fax orders. So, now that I'm saying that out loud, I sound even older. So there was a whole file cabinet, everything with every store in there, and you would just file in their orders. And so I was filing, faxing, steaming, making phone calls. Markets are a big part of this industry. And so that's kind of, markets are like trade shows. So there's a couple of big ones each year, but then every region has their own kind of regional shows. And those are usually 5 times a year. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to do and a lot of selling to be had. And so that was kind of the role of an intern. And it was a full-time internship. So it was 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. You're doing the whole kit and caboodle. Once I finished that internship, I did not move forward with staying in the showroom and the wholesale side. I was, I get a little hard-headed about like how I want things to go. And so, which is not uncommon for me. I get hard-headed about a lot of stuff. I get it in my mind and that's what it has to be. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be back in the design side of everything. And so with that, I found a really small couture evening gown company to work for. I worked for this guy named Jamie Pesavento. And if you were to ever hear this, hey, I miss you. We were our own little family. It was a small company. He specialized in doing custom-made gowns, which was a really, really neat experience. I was so young when I started working for him. I think I was 22.
Yeah.
And I stayed with him for about 4 years. And I learned all the ins and outs. And again, it was a lot of heavy lifting. I would be running down 7th Avenue in New York City, carrying like rolls of lining that had to match the taffeta gowns that we were doing.
Wow.
We would make the custom beading together and have to sit with the lady who did all the beading and just like put like samples of exactly how we wanted it, because everything had to match exactly for this one custom gown. So that was pretty neat. And I stayed in the design side. As everybody knows, also in the fashion industry, when you work on that design side, you're really not going to be making a ton of money. And at the time it was recession-y. And so
that's the arts for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is tough. So I was working part-time as well, working retail with Anthropologie. So ultimately, I kind of had to make this really hard choice of, can I stay doing this job, or do I need to just find a way to like have a career and move up and keep going that way? So I ultimately made the decision to kind of bounce over and work retail full time, which is a crazy move when you're someone who like loves design as much as you do. But when you go with a company like Anthropologie, it was just so like curated for people in the arts, and everybody that I worked with like had something that they were doing, whether they're musicians, they're artists, they were phenomenal merchandisers. Everyone was creative. So the space really made you feel like I felt like I fit, like that was the right place for me. So retail did a lot. I stayed in New York. I actually worked at the Rockefeller Center Anthro, which was really cool. Such an experience.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. So big and so busy. And you learn how to handle a lot in those moments. But an opportunity came to open a store in Atlanta, and it was the first freestanding store. And you know, when you're young and you're living in a big city like New York City, to move back to Atlanta, you're like, oh, it's small. I don't want to work in a mall. I want to work in something that feels like a city.
Yeah.
And so I got that opportunity. And so that kind of took me there.
Back to your roots.
Yes.
Kind of growing up. You had family already there. And so that piece probably felt at least comforting in some way, that like, if I'm going to make this big change, at least I'm coming back to something additional than just the store. But that store was also, I remember that one was a beautiful store as well.
It was a fun store.
Yeah.
It was a good store.
You, while you were still in New York, and Atlanta is still a pretty like bustling city, if that's even a word people use. We're making ourselves sound so old, and we're not old. We just have been in like the arts for so long, but start them young.
Exactly.
But while you were in New York, you, as you already mentioned, you were surrounded by other creatives, lots of other musicians, and then or people that you worked with doing lots of different things, people that you lived with, you know, all kinds of, you had some major adventures in New York, and you were out and about all the time. How did the energy of New York, the other creatives around you, the designers that you were around, and then like the stores that you were in that were really, and especially at the time, those Anthropologie stores were very unique each to themselves. There was a lot of room for design and creativity there. How did all of that affect your personal style at the time as you were developing that during that time in your life?
It was, when you're young, you're really adventurous, no matter what. When you're around creative people that allow you to be yourself freely, it's even more, it's next level. And they also like, I had never been around people from all over like that. And, you know, I grew up in Georgia. It's the suburbs of Atlanta. It's not like I came from the country. We had everything, you know, but it was still like you find people that are really interesting, and it makes you realize that there's interesting things about yourself that you just needed to learn to explore. And it was really fun to kind of do that in my 20s for sure. I don't think I could be doing that now, but I definitely find that you're influenced by, when you immerse yourself with creatives, you become creative again, like all over yourself. And you can influence people and they can influence you. And it's really fun, like to bounce ideas and things like that.
That is such a cool way to think about it, because it does help you discover something about yourself. And fashion's one of those things that it's such a form of expression. But everyone can see it all the time. Like, I feel like, music, you write a song, some people can hear it. But your fashion, it's day to night, it's constant. And it's a constant form of expression. And it's such a cool thing. So, you made your way back to Atlanta, and you ended up, like, your current position is as a account executive for a multi-line showroom. Yeah. You have lots of different lines that you work very closely with, and then you're kind of the go-between between them and then the boutiques that you are finding that fit them the best. Yeah. And you've been doing that for a while. How do you feel you have brought your more design background to the table now that you're working relationally and helping other designers find the right fit for them?
Yeah. I think with a design background, you understand fit really well. You understand kind of like the construction of clothing and like how things can work for people and how they're going to fit on a certain body type or things like that. So you tend to have a like more elevated, I guess, level of communication style about a particular item, which can really help overall in the sales process. Sales process is super personality based and it's driven that way. And I like to not just be like light and fluffy because it doesn't need to be deep and heavy for me. Clothes are really fun and I get very excited about them. And especially when I see new things, I'm like, I want to sell it. I want to show it off. And you immediately start thinking of stores that are going to need this new line or they're going to need this new collection and things like that. And so that's really fun. But having a design background I think that's where like it sparks joy and it's not as about, it doesn't have to be so intense. And so that's how I like to do it that way and like build my relationships through my excitement and my passion of all of that. So.
Relationships are such a huge part. I know in talking with you about the way that you communicate, the way that you show different boutiques what may or may not work for them. You're not just like throwing all of the same sweatshirt at the same people. You're kind of, like gray sweatshirts, everybody. Although we all need them. Literally anyone that's listening and not watching.
Is it a closet staple for me? For sure.
For sure. But that's also a family trait is like a gray staple in the closet.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it really is. But you're pretty curated with the way that you do that, but you do that by building relationships because you are based out of Atlanta, but you are interacting with boutiques all over the Southeast, really. So how long does it take to build those relationships to where you feel really confident in what works? Is it trend-based in the area? Is it more shop to shop? Like, how do you make those decisions and how long does it take to build those relationships?
Well, then it's kind of neat because in the Southeast, we handle anything from Virginia all the way down to Miami, so Florida. And then we kind of handle just over to Alabama. Every state is a little different. Every city is a little different. And you really start thinking about fashion regionally when you do a job like this, because I handled Florida almost solely for a really long time in this position. And Florida is just so different than a Georgia account would be or a North Carolina account would be. And it's not in any good way or bad way. It's just they're unique. And Florida's hot. So Florida doesn't want leather jackets. Yeah. Florida doesn't want sweaters in October. Yeah. Florida needs sweaters in January. Or it's just things are very weather driven. But things are also store specific and stores are so different and stores have their own personality. And I think that's something that's really fun about working with boutiques again, because when I even worked in retail at Anthro, there was a distinct difference in every single store you went into. But that also is by way of the team that works there. We would have, if I'd have that store that I worked at in West Midtown, then there was the mall store. Our customers would tell us how different each store is, not only because the collection of clothing, but the team and the people.
Mm-hmm.
And you just get different experiences in different places.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing with boutiques. Like they all cultivate their own kind of look and environment, and they have their own special customers, and they are buying for their own special customers.
Mm-hmm.
So the more I learn about those boutiques, the more I learn about their customers, and I can cater 100% to them.
Totally. It's a really collaborative
for sure.
project at that point. You're bringing to the table what's available, also probably trend alerts and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're bringing to the table, this is who we're catering towards.
Yeah.
That is really fun. I mean, this is not a siloed type of industry at all.
No. And it's also not like I'm working behind a computer all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other different thing, is that we're not, I'm not tied to a desk. We are on the road. And by on the road, I mean, we are driving racked out Sprinter vans, like the tall ones, so you can stand up. And we go to these boutiques to show all the new collections. If they can't make it to a big show, then we're showing them everything, which is wild.
I feel like I've had the blessing of getting you've had some Nashville accounts through the years, and so every time you come through I get to see you, which is always so fun.
Yeah.
And Nashville has its own brand. I know
for sure
that it's got its own stamp, which probably everybody knows at this point, but it does its own thing. It does like a leather jacket, I'll say.
Oh, they do love a leather jacket.
Yeah.
So do I.
They love a boot. I love a jean for every occasion in Nashville.
That's right. Maybe a band tee.
Band tee. We're not calling anyone out if anyone feels very seen right now.
It works for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So you have your very own personal style. We've joked before today, literally, I think it even came up, but you mentioned in your kind of New York days, you're really, really adventurous with your personal sense of style. You're a mom now, and which is the best blessing ever. But we've joked about that, like mom style, like this is my new mom look. But you,
mom on the go,
mom on the go. Little tracksuit and a Stanley. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it looks good. I like it. But you really have always expressed who you are in the moment, and it has changed over the time.
Yeah,
I'll never forget when I literally first met you. I was so stressed because I knew you were in fashion, and you were the one of the family I needed to impress the most based on being the favorite sister of my future husband. But so I'll never forget, I met you at a party and I was wearing a little jacket and had a big bow on it. And you came up to me and you're like, I love that bow. And I thought, oh, thank you, Jesus, heaven above. I think I got this.
Got her with the bow.
I got her with the bow. Thank you, God. But anyway, back to my original, where I was going with this, but you do have your own personal expression. How important is that to you? And I know some people probably think of like aesthetics as something that's kind of superficial, but really it affects the tone of your day. It affects all of our surroundings so much. So how important is it to you to be able to express yourself in a certain way with fashion, and or how that translates you even into your home and the way you design that space?
Yeah. Well, it's obviously evolved, and I think it does, and it has to as you get older. I think one of the biggest things that as I've gotten older, I'm such a hand talker. If you're not watching this and you're just listening, just know that I'm a very big hand talker.
Your hands are all over the place.
I'm just
right
going
now.
everywhere. And I'm very aware of it now, and I'm like, oh gosh. But as I get older, it has to evolve, because when you're young, you're diving in, you're doing every trend. You're like, I have to do it all. Mm-hmm. And we did not get lucky with the trends that were happening in our 20s.
No.
We're so bad.
Boo.
I mean, it was just like the boots and the denim skirts and the low-slung belts and the gauchos and everything that you're seeing actually right now that everyone's making fun of. We're cringing. And that's okay. I mean, it was fun, and I went in and I went hard on all of it. Mm-hmm. And now I like to look at trends, and I do prefer more of a classic thing, but I like things with a twist, or I like things that have something that makes my outfit or anything about what I'm doing a little bit more unique. Mm-hmm. And I'll just lean in on one trend. I won't lean on every trend. And I think that is, as you get older, you do refine yourself. And I mean, I think anyone would say that as you get older, you do become more refined and things like that, but especially in style too. You start realizing what works for you. You start looking at yourself and you're like, well, that's not great for my body type.
Not for me.
Not for me. And that's okay. And not every trend is for everybody or everybody, but you can also make things work for yourself and do it your way. And that's what I think is fun. And that's where fashion becomes fun. And it can always be fun forever and ever. I mean, I look at my mom even now as such a good example of that. She, to this day, gets the most excited about clothing. Couldn't
for herself
love it more.
And anybody else too.
Like I go to her house, she's like, look what I bought. And she is ecstatic. And it's so fun. And it's like, that's the way that I want to be forever and ever. I don't have to be, my mom's in her 70s and she's still excited about getting dressed. She doesn't say, oh, I'm in my 70s. I have to wear a big baggy t-shirt and a big baggy pant and a comfort shoe. She's like, I need a comfort shoe, but I'm going to be cute.
Right.
And I like that. And that's a vibe.
She's set that tone for y'all her whole life. And I can second this. Like, she is a dynamo. She also really expresses herself through the way she dresses, also the way she cooks, and then the way she does her house. Everything is, she's always looking. She's constantly looking around. And she's not afraid to try something. And just like you said, she's not afraid to box. She's not going to box herself in by age or anything like that. She's kind of just living it and having, like you say, having fun with it. So how was that growing up? Did that have a pretty big influence on you as a child? I know you all kind of, you grew up under that influence and that umbrella. So how did that shape you to the industry you're in now? And I know you've kind of always been creative. Yeah.
It's funny because growing up, my mom was more, she would always tell us if we were going somewhere, we would need to be dressed a certain way. So it was like, hey, we used to get our haircuts at a place called Phipps Plaza, and it's in Atlanta. It's like the nice mall, and it was fancier. So she'd be like, you guys need to get dressed up. And it was like, hey kids, get in your Sunday best. We're going to Sears. But not Sears really. But we were going to like this place called Carter Barnes, and it was fancy. So we had to look nice. And so I think for my whole life now, it's like, where am I going? What do I need to be looking like? I don't want to blend in. I want to stand out always, but I want to make sure that the tone is right of what I have on. And so I feel like that's super important. My mom has always instilled that, and presentation is important no matter in everything. It's what everything was growing up. My mom was a big hostess. She's an entertainer. Her, dishes for everything is on a perfect platter, and it's always arranged and
seasonal.
Always seasonal. She's got a thing. And that is something that I do to this day also. And, it's fun though. And it's so cute, and it's fun to get excited about things. And so, yeah.
It's really something too that going back to it not being superficial, in my opinion, just because those types of things, setting the tone, whether it's your own personal style and the presence that you bring into a room, or whether it's in hosting and the way you set a room up for comfort and coziness for somebody, all of that is in order to be hospitable and welcoming, which is something that's actually pretty deep in the Christian faith. Is hospitality is such a huge piece of that, making others feel comfortable and extended to, basically. So it's something it can be a really important element. I know that I mentioned the PJs earlier, Christmas PJs, because as a family, there's things like that traditions are pretty important. And that is something that carries through different generations, I guess, and also has a way of wrapping its arms around people. How important is that to you, and the aesthetic of traditions? How is that manifested in your life now as an adult with your new little family, also with our extended family, and how that relates to when you were a kid?
Yeah. When you think about traditions in our family, and then as an adult, if things change, it's like you kind of freak out when your parents change things on you. You're like, wait, you didn't there's a running joke. There's one year my mom didn't make the Yule log cake on Christmas Eve. She never heard the end of it.
Yeah.
And so she'll make it forever now, always. But those traditions are so instilled, and it's something that is the most fun. I love on Christmas Eve how we as a family do Christmas PJs. It's the one present you can open. And I know like a lot of people have like a PJ tradition kind of thing, but it's the only present that we can open, and we all match. And the next morning we get to match. And as an adult, it's been so fun. As kids, it was the most fun. With my husband's family, they don't do like that same tradition. So I've had to learn to do like his traditions where they open everything Christmas Eve, which is so fun.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just such a different experience. And, but their traditions are so fun. So I think we will do a mashup kind of between our family, or our sweet little family right now that's tiny, of how we're going to kind of navigate that a little bit more. But PJs is here to stay.
Yeah, PJs.
That's for sure.
Can't get rid of the PJ trend. It's so funny because I also, growing up, had that same exact PJ tradition in the family that I was growing up in as a kid. And we opened one Christmas Eve gift every year, and it was always PJs. But it's been elevated since expanding my family with y'all. It's been expanded to like extreme matching, and we take this seriously, y'all. Like that's true. Months in advance. You start. I mean, I think we started talking about this. We got it in October. Yeah,
I think they have been bought.
Yeah.
Now we get a say. When you're little, though, you didn't get a say.
No.
And so good.
Yeah, expressing yourself in a Christmas PJ. You can't knock it, really.
No, it's great.
It's great. And then there's also, we kind of do a lot of the gingerbread houses has become a thing.
Oh yeah, that's been a good one.
A little designer moment.
Yeah, we love that.
Yes. Something that I've always thought was hilarious about you. There's a laundry list, but I'll just go into it by, I remember one time we were walking down the beach. We were in Pensacola, and this kid came sprinting down the beach. Obviously, the parents are the casual ones walking just very slowly. This kid comes sprinting down, just like, and doing cartwheels. And you look over to me just so casual, and you're like, that's clearly the youngest child. That was me when I was a kid.
100%.
And it cracked me up so much because you do have a bit of an entertainment streak in you. I know you're very all business when it comes to your career.
Yeah.
And you've gone really far in your career. You've done a lot, and you bring so much to the table. You do have a really silly side, and you are constantly keeping everyone around you laughing. And how much of that has been since you were a tiny little screaming child down the beach? And how creative were you then as well? You know, entertainment, creativity, all of that. Did you know that was something that you were going to carry into your future? Did you know that your career path would become a fully creative career for the rest of your life when you were little? How much did you know? How much did you forecast that?
I don't know if I did, because I was definitely a creative kid. There was not enough crafts for me to be able to get my hands on. And I used to complain, like, I was like, Mom, we don't have enough like crafty things. I want to make stuff. I want to do stuff. Like, I just always wanted to be doing things. I was not as excited about video games or gaming. My sister is so good at it, and like stuff like that. Billy liked it a little bit, not a ton. And, I couldn't get into it. I wanted to be doing things with my hands. I wanted to be making things visually. I loved color and stuff like that. And so, but when we were growing up, I don't think that I never knew. I ever knew.
Yeah, been back in Georgia for a long time. Get a little Georgia
coming in. I don't think that I ever knew that like fashion was a career or like something that you can do. Like, you just don't know that stuff. Those creative fields were not something that my house like told us. However, the oddest thing is that my dad basically does what I do now, but in the furniture industry.
Right. Yeah. That's
and
so true.
So it's interesting that he is a creative in a sense, because he's worked in the furniture industry forever. He's on the sales side as well. But I didn't realize that was a whole job. So I didn't learn that till I was early in college. I had started college a communications major. I thought I wanted to be on the radio. I thought the personality, this is who I am. I'm here to shine. Man. Your girl is here. And I have a raspy voice, not as raspy as it is today. I am currently slightly under the weather, and I never lose my voice. And here we are the day of having to do this.
Yes,
and my voice is really special today for
timing.
everyone.
Perfect timing for this. That is also welcome to Middle Tennessee. It's a constant thing here where everyone is just like dripping, and we're like, why?
I know. It's that, and I think it's like a little bit of like the daycare, like kennel cough. I'm picking up on all those kids, so it's finally taken me down. It's been a couple months, and I've been fine.
Yeah.
But when I finally learned that I could kind of like jump into a career where I am exploring my creativity, I was like, see you later, radio. I'm all in on fashion design. I initially thought I wanted to do lingerie, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah,
I thought that was like where I was headed.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, that's not the vibe. So I decided to switch, and I kind of was like, no, I want to do women's contemporary. I love dresses. Dresses was where I kind of started my like real love and started sketching and doing all of that. And so like that's kind of, I didn't know. And then when you find out you can do something, it's even more exciting.
It opens so many doors.
It does. And nothing has to close. You can truly just keep trying.
And it can look so many different ways. I mean, you've been able to do lots of different aspects, and every aspect of the fashion industry that you've been in, from design to retail to business kind of more sales, or fashion. All of those elements have been able to build on themselves and really accompany and also enhance the other pieces. You're bringing a lot, and everything you've done so far, you're bringing forward into the next role that you take on.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm sure that has to help you within your communication, your relationships with boutiques, and helping them find their kind of thing, or helping to cater towards their thing and their niche.
Yeah. And I mean, working in retail for so long also helps just understanding their side of the business, with my buyers and stuff like that, just because I understand. And, you know, they're busy now while it's quieter for me. They're wild. And I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I totally get it.
Yeah.
I've been there.
I feel you, girl.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah. So you got married a couple years ago, and which was a beautiful, wonderful wedding. Also, one of the most picturesque, in true Emily form, it was one of the most picturesque weddings on New Year's Eve. Amazing. Y'all have now had your first son, and he is so precious. I have just watched how you're living your career life over here, and then within your family life, you really do bring that aesthetic taste that you have into your home. And I don't even know if you think about it that way, but just being, you know, from the outside looking in, everything, when you set up just your mantle for the next holiday coming up or whatever, it's not just like there's some candlesticks up there and whatever. I mean, they are perfectly placed, and you really think about the whole picture. Year to year, it's a little different based on how you are feeling then, it seems like, when you're setting things up. How important is that to you, and how does that really translate? Or how important is that to you, and why is that important in your personal life, in your home, for your husband, your baby, and in our extended family?
It's so fun to kind of like dress your house, essentially, I guess you could say. First of all, my husband, Matt, he loves it. He loves when the house is decorated, and it's just, it feels so nice. It feels finished, and it feels complete when you, it feels complete whenever you kind of get to tie like that last little ribbon on things, or, you know, put up that candlestick, or you found the perfect candlesticks. I got so excited this year. I found these hand painted candlesticks to go on these like gorgeous gold like candelabras that my mom gave me. And it's like with the manger and it's just like, they're perfect, and they're like light blue with gold painting. And they're from London. I got them I ordered them off Etsy, and they came from London, and I'm obsessed. And so little things like that, where you just feel like you've kind of like fit the last piece in the puzzle for your home. Like when you have a home that feels complete, it feels comfortable. And my whole life is our house was comfortable. You have a home that's lived in. I don't want it to be staged. I want things to make sense, but I also want it to feel, anybody who comes into my home, I want them to walk in and be like, oh, this is nice. Like, this is cozy. I can sit here. I don't have to worry about if I broke a glass, it's okay. Like things like that. It needs to be comfortable and welcoming. So it's important.
It is important. It really does send a tone of welcome, which is so precious and tender, and it helps to build memories in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
If you're paying attention to those details. How would you recommend to someone, and this, I think I'd like to extend this to either your way you're setting and kind of designing up your home, dreaming up your home, or the way that you are presenting yourself with a dress, someone that's maybe not really inclined towards aesthetics and really is like, I don't have the first clue. I mean, I think I like blue. I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't really know where to start. How would you advise someone towards either sense of style personally or setting home, like a first couple little key steps to help kind of navigate that and not make it overwhelming?
Yeah. You have to kind of get out there. Yeah. And I know that's like a lot of people don't love doing that anymore. Everyone wants to go online. You want to like find it on Amazon. You're like, oh, is this going to be great? I personally am so inspired when I'm out and about and seeing things. I need textures. I need colors. I need prints. I need things that spark my imagination. You can do your research before and maybe like try to decide, is there a certain aesthetic that you like the most? But if you really want to like find it and get after it, you kind of have to go, you have to get in the field. You have to go touch stuff and find stuff. Yeah. You're going to find your best things that way.
Yeah.
And then once you kind of have learned what you like, then you can go to the internet and try to like figure out what it is that you need. I don't find that my best finds are from the internet. Always, like besides the candlesticks.
Yeah. Etsy for
I don't
London.
live in London.
Yeah.
I would have never found her.
Yeah.
But Etsy for the win for sure. But yeah, I mean, you kind of have to like go learn. You have to teach yourself. And that's the thing about fashion. It's not, you can inherently have a desire to do it, but if you want to be good at it per se, to someone who doesn't like love it, you kind of have to teach yourself. It's the same way that if you hear a song and you like it, you don't just know all the lyrics. You have to learn it. So it's kind of like you have to put a little effort in to make it feel like it works for you.
Yeah, look around. And works for you is such a key piece to that, which kind of is similar to you saying, like in your home, you want it to feel lived in and comfortable, like you can sit down but still look around and it's, aesthetically calming and cozy.
Yeah.
Finding something that fits you and is your thing. Like going out and chasing every trend is probably not the way to go if you're overwhelmed by the idea of what am I putting on my body?
It's a little scary out there.
World's a scary place. Would you say like picking 5 things, picking 1 thing? I know earlier you mentioned when you're looking at the trends, you're like, I'm not doing all this. I'm picking and choosing some. Pick
and choose, especially if you're a beginner. But if you're not, if you're young, go after it. Have fun. But I do think that, maybe like ease into it a little bit, it's okay to like, if you want to do something crazy, if something crazy for you is wearing a loafer, like my current favorite trend that's back, wear it with a plain white t-shirt and call it a day. Keep it super classic. So
I love that. I do want to probably give you a couple little trend questions. I'll save that before we go. But before we do that, as you know, one of my favorite topics is my nephew, your son, also known as.
Yeah, we love him.
He's so cute. But he's brought a lot of joy into you and Matt's life and everyone's life. But he and nieces and nephews have a way of doing that. I know I sound like the crazy aunt, but I have nieces and nephews that already that are grown up and he's just the newest addition that's so precious and snuggy. But they bring so much joy. They do. Like children just kind of have a way of doing that. This is this little fresh start. And he popped in to the family at such a perfect, precious time for us. Honestly, kind of a tender time.
Yeah.
After losing Billy, here comes Noah. And we're like, well, here we go. We got to get it together. Here we go. We got a new little family member to take care of. But you mentioned that he's kind of helped you along the way a little bit in your faith journey, just the way that you approach God with him, and why you approach God with him. And would you mind talking a little bit about that and kind of broaching that?
Of course. So Matt has always been just such a huge part of like wanting to have our family be very faith driven and faith based. And he grew up in an extremely faith sound environment. And like that is something that he turns to and it's really important for him. So with Matt kind of like kind of like cheering me on a little bit. I've had my own relationship with God for my whole life, but as I've gotten older, of course, it can lead you astray and things like that. This has definitely been a very powerful, emotional year with so many highs and so many lows that I found myself turning to God a lot more. And of course, with like the nudge of Matt behind me and realizing that when we were going to bring little Noah into this world, I was like, this is something that like, it's important for Matt, for us to make sure that he is guided with God and guided by God. And we want to make sure that that's going to happen. And so with me, I found that, and I kind of like, I've subtly told you this already before, but when I put Noah down to bed, that's our time to start our prayers. And so we, every single night, we say our prayers, and it's truly a conversation with God, talk a little bit about the day, a little bit of trials and tribulations, things that are feeling like tough and they're pulling at my heartstrings, but it's also a time for us to reflect and think about others. And that's the other part of life that has been really, when you become a mom, you immediately start thinking of others. And it's number one is your son. It's not just yourself anymore. But then it's like, you think of everyone in your life for so long that has been like doing this too. And you're like, why have I not been praying for everyone for forever, like all the time? Like I need to be thinking about everyone. Yeah, it's just, but thinking of everyone. And it really makes you, it made me really think and look inward a lot. And I wanted to make sure that this is something that I know that Matt does. And Matt always is thoughtful of others. And it's something that I want to make sure that Matt and I can both instill in Noah. So just having these conversations, hopefully, ultimately he'll pick up on them. And when he can start to talk, he can lead some prayers himself and be thoughtful of others too. So it's hopeful that it'll settle in.
It's so sweet because you say you kind of start your prayers, hey God, it's me and Noah. That's again.
We do.
It's so conversational, which is so sweet. Yeah, that's just so precious. Family's so important. And the way that you set, back to the word tone again, but I think it really is so important, the way that you bring yourself into any situation, the way that you encourage and gather and welcome in others has a lot to do with the tone that is set around you. That can go so far, whether it's the way that you're talking to God in a conversation and being like, hey, it's Emily and Noah. What's up, God? That sets a tone. Yeah. To have a great, deeper, like just friendship with God. The way that you dress and walk into a room, showing that you take what you're doing seriously. That's showing that you know yourself and you're expressing yourself. The way you set your, the candlesticks on all of it is setting tone. I don't want to let you go without, because you're in fashion, without talking trends, you know? Because I have you in this pew, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I would love to know from your perspective right now, what kind of trends are we seeing coming up in the coming year, both for guys and girls, in style? What are you seeing? What's on the horizon for us? And what can we like look forward to leaning? What's an easy thing to lean into? What's something that maybe should be avoided at all cost, or what? What are we seeing? What's on the horizon?
What's on the horizon? Well, I'm like, everything. The weird thing about fashion is everything's there and nothing's there all at the same time. Because I think as you get older, you realize that the trends are just cyclical. Like they're going to continue to go away and come back and go away and come back. And you're just like, wait a second. What? I thought we did this. How is this happening?
Haven't we been here before?
I'm trying to think, like, we have a lot of like t-shirt brands. So like I can tell you what's going on. T-shirts are still a thing.
Yeah, that's been going strong for a while.
Oh yeah. Big, strong. I think we're phasing out a lot of that. I don't want to say prairie dresses, but they were like kind of like that. Like those like earthy kind of like, we've had enough of those. Time to move on.
Time to move on from the prairie dress.
Things are going to be a little bit, I'm trying to think like, wait, I've seen it. It's like loose and flowy, but like sexier almost. I feel like we're seeing like a little like sexier. I feel like when you go from one thing, you see a trend that catches on that's crazy, you're going to get the opposite next time. So where we saw a lot of like covered up and, like ditzy florally prints. We're not getting that now. I'm
Mhm.
seeing a lot like just strapless dresses, things that are fitted, tube tops, things like that. So
Oh, a tube top's coming
Tube
around
top.
again. Woo!
yeah,
Yeah.
don't
just
get it
glad
confused with a skirt.
Yeah. Yeah, no
Those
kidding.
are tricky.
Yeah, I'm just glad it's not the bra top anymore.
Yeah.
That was short-lived, but too long.
Still lingering.
Oh no, okay. So what would you say?
Not for everybody.
Yeah, not for everyone. No. For guys, what would you say? Like if anyone's listening currently, like right now, which is holiday season, if you're listening to it and it's not holiday season anymore, thank you for going back and listening. But if you are listening during the holiday season and people are like, what do I get? I want to get a sweater for somebody, or I want to get, something kind of fashion-y or jewelry wise for a guy and a girl, what would be a good way to kind of veer towards?
A guy and a girl?
Or either for a guy or for a girl, shopping wise.
Are we on a budget?
Can you give me 2 categories?
Yeah.
Okay. Budget and not budget.
Okay. I feel like I have to say this because I represent a leather jacket line.
Yeah.
Leather jackets are honestly a great gift. If you have, and it doesn't have to be crazy. There's leather jacket companies out there that are affordable. Yeah. But a leather jacket's a really cool choice. They can be kind of personal, but there's so many varieties that you can really tailor it in. They don't have to be so moto and so edgy. There's really feminine styles out there, and I just feel like it's a big win. And leather is a trend all across the board. So leather's still winning. Let's go that.
Okay. Leather. I love it. Leather for the win on that one.
Yeah.
I love it. And is that kind of more like, you mentioned that could be either more of a spendy buy or like kind of budgeted out?
I mean, spendy, you're going real leather.
Yeah.
And that's the way to go. If you really want to do it right.
Yeah.
Real leather all the day.
Can I ask you this question?
Yeah.
Considering my current outfit right now, if you're watching this, you know that there's a leatherish situation going on my top half.
My bottom half.
And your bottom half. Matchy, matchy. I have noticed lately that it has gone from being called pleather to being called vegan leather.
Yeah.
Is this a marketing situation, or is this just like a conscious effort to bring awareness to vegan leather?
You tell me what sounds nicer.
Yeah. Vegan leather. I'm going with it. Yeah.
You're right.
Makes you feel good about your choice.
What's interesting about that is that there are ways to soften a fake fabrication, which is something that the industry's been doing. But it also does feel like a little more sustainable. However, I can tell you that there's a lot of leather companies out there. If you are worried about wearing real leather, not every company will do this. There's a lot of leather companies that are, they do everything. They're a byproduct of the meat industry. So if the meat industry is doing that, they're going to take the hides from the meat industry. So there's a way to have leather as sustainable and resourceful, and it makes the most sense. And that is the leather jacket company that Mauritius is the name of this leather jacket company. Plug them.
Yeah. Shout out
Mauritius. We love you. But it's a sustainable company, and they do all the efforts in order to make it, it's honestly the way that they produce real leather is less toxics gets released into the environment than it would for a vegan leather.
Sure. So, that's amazing. I love that.
So it's fun to know.
So top gift ideas, a leather jacket is going to be a win.
I think so.
And we're going a little bit more on the sexy side of life, a little less on the cover up flouncy prairie girl life. I love it. And for guys, is there a top trend you see coming down the pipe?
I do a lot of guy stuff. I rep the leather jackets in men's and women's, but then I just like some graphic tees. But those are always going to be an easy guy thing. But I don't know as much about guys' fashion as I do about women's. So.
You've been really on the women's, which you mentioned earlier was your area of focus, contemporary women's fashion. That's awesome. I love it. So you coming up as the year closes, you're looking at a brand new year with like a pretty big show, an event coming towards your showroom.
Yep.
Coming up in January. What else do y'all have that you're looking forward to in the coming year? And or is there a certain trend that you are personally looking forward to in the coming year?
There's right now it's super calm. Like I said, for the wholesaler side, this is where retailers are retailing and they are busy and they are like we'll see it in January because January is when new collections debut. So then we'll be starting to sell fall 2024, if you can believe it.
Fall 2024.
So we'll be selling for things that will be hitting stores in like August, September of next year. And that's when things ramp up. We have really big shows. There's big shows in New York and Vegas at that time of year. And then we also have like our regional shows. So we've got our Atlanta markets that are 5 times a year, but that kicks off in February. And then it's hitting that road again, which is like the sales rep slang for, kind of like hitting the pavement, going to visit all your boutiques and see each one in each city and all that kind of stuff. So.
I love it. It's exciting. You live an exciting life.
Yeah. It's a mobile life, that's for sure.
Yes. Which so many creative avenues that people decide to go down, roads that they go down career-wise end up being like that. There's very, very few that are attached to a chair. Sitting still.
Yeah, it's tough to do that. And I'm not good with that either.
Yeah. Well, it really fits. Yeah, it fits your vibe. You were a very naturally creative person, just in and out. Yeah. A lot of energy. You've been able to tie in your career, your design side, your creativity with the relationship skills that you've developed over the years and that key business side, that sales more side of your brain, and been able to pair those together so well. And that seems to have really aided in the way you're able to help your customers now, it seems.
Oh yeah. I do have that weird, like, I'm creative, but I'm also like focused.
Yeah.
Sometimes that doesn't always those aren't always cohesive traits with people. And so I can focus and know what's serious and how to do that. So it's always been something that's been a surprise for me.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone that is listening that has, that is thinking about maybe changing courses or maybe developing one side over the other, leaning in, if you are more business-minded, finding ways to find sparks of joy, like you mentioned, to develop that creative side, and then vice versa.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Well-rounded.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really appreciate you being here and doing this. I really appreciate you bringing my nephew to me today to be in Nashville.
Oh, yeah. His first trip to Nashville.
First trip to Nashville for baby boy. But honestly, you're a very inspiring person. You've carried your spirit with you through the family, but also in your career and many cities that you've been able to just like absorb the energy of the things that are around you. And you have a very unique way of expressing yourself so clearly and so knowingly, as well as absorbing what's around you and being able to kind of fit in and be appropriately expressful, which is a skill set that I think is really valuable and can be inspiring to others. Well, pay attention. Just pay attention to things around you, right?
Yeah, just, get in there.
Yeah.
See it all. Open your eyes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing this. And
of course.
You can go ahead and head over to Two in a Pew on Instagram. It's at Two in a Pew. If you want some more clips and maybe some tips and tricks, we'll see about putting something up like that.
Yeah.
And wishing everybody a really happy holiday season if you're listening to it currently during the holidays. And thank you so much for being here, Emily.
Thank you. This has been so fun.
So fun.
I was so nervous.
You did great. You did great. Thank you.